This woman had already given birth to 3 daughters, but she still risked her life to have a 4th child, all for the sake of having a son. The woman's name was Han Sun. She was the daughter-in-law of the century-old company Huang Yu So Sauce. Because she had given birth to 3 daughters in a row, she was not favored by her father-in-law, Ben Lu. Ben Lu only wanted a grandson to inherit the family business. Fortunately, her 4th pregnancy was successful, and she gave birth to a boy. Han Sun felt a great weight lifted off her shoulders. Unfortunately, she miscarried. She was diagnosed with lifelong infertility. Ben Lu was furious upon hearing the news. He ordered his son to find another woman to have a child or divorce his wife. Han Sun was heartbroken. She had a friend named Qing Lan, who had an unmarried daughter. Qing Lan's mother, Zhang Kun, approached Han Sun for help and learned that Han Sun could no longer have children. She then hatched a devious plan to have her daughter take advantage of the situation. Qing Lan took advantage of Han Sun's husband Minsu. When he was drunk, Ken brought him to a hotel. The two spent the night together. A year later, Qing Lan appeared at the gate of the Huang Yu So Sauce Company with her son Ragon. Seeing Han Sun, she looked innocent and said, "This is my husband's son." Han Sun returned home and couldn't bear the blow. Fainting, Dan Lu was overjoyed to learn he had a grandson. He asked Qing Lan to bring Ragon to meet him. He held Ragon tightly. Looking very happy, he even took Ragon home with him. With Ban Lu's tacit approval, Qing Lan often stayed at their house. Han Sun was so angry she didn't know what to do. One day, Qing Lan mocked Han Sun for being unable to have a son, saying it would mean the end of the Huang Yu So Sauce Company's heir. Han Sun couldn't take it anymore and started fighting with her. When Ban Lu saw this, he blamed Han Sun. He warned her that Ragon was the one who would inherit the family business. Ban Lu even told Han Sun to raise Ragon. With no other choice, Minsu decided to move out and live separately from his father. However, he died in a car accident while looking for a place to live. Han Sun was deeply saddened by this. Qing Lan took the opportunity to suggest moving in, and even said she could keep Han Sun company. Han Sun didn't want to respond. Ben Lu silently agreed. That day, Han Sun returned home with her 3 daughters. She found her luggage thrown out. It turned out that Qing Lan had ordered the servants not to open the door. She wanted to take this opportunity to kick Han Sun out. Han Sun called her father-in-law and learned that he was busy preparing for his son's memorial service. He had no time to deal with her affairs. With no other options, she had to take the children and stay at a hotel. However, Ben Lu, upon learning that they had been evicted, showed no concern. Han Sun's parents were both deceased. Now she had no one to rely on. Looking at her 3 daughters, she felt a wave of despair. Surprisingly, Han Sun, who had been diagnosed as infertile, found herself pregnant at this time. However, her current physical condition made childbirth extremely dangerous. This news was both joyful and tragic. After much internal struggle, she decided to keep the child. Soon after, Han Sun gave birth to a daughter with great effort. The midwife felt sorry for her, wishing it had been a son. But when Han Sun saw the child, she felt no regret. This child had brought her hope. She named her daughter Huna, which also meant a new beginning. 7 years later, Huna had grown into a sensible young girl. Huna was very smart from a young age. Every day, she and her older sister helped others with chores to earn pocket money. They would then bring milk back to their mother. Huna was both intelligent and beautiful. The neighbors were always willing to give her some food. Her older sister, Hu Ming, had some mental disabilities and couldn't go to school. The children all lived in a tiny rented room. They only had a little pickled vegetables to eat. But before they could even start eating, the landlord shouted from outside. It was time to pay the rent. Han Sun begged the landlord to give them a few more days, but the landlord refused to budge. She had already been behind on rent for half a year. She told them to move out immediately. Meanwhile, Qing Lan's life was completely different. She shopped and indulged in luxury every day. Even her daughter, Lu Shi, enjoyed a privileged life at home. She threw birthday parties for her birthday. She was picky about her clothes. Her son Ragon also looked like he was living a pampered life. And all of this should have belonged to Huna's family. Huna and her sister couldn't find any work, so they waited at a neighbor's store for their mother to come back. Hu Ming said their mother was working too hard and offered to carry her home. Han Sun's health was poor, and she often couldn't sleep at night due to discomfort. Huna noticed something was wrong with her mother. She looked at the wounds on her mother's hands and felt heartbroken. Han Sun, exhausted from overwork, finally collapsed. Hu Ming was heartbroken to see his mother sick. Huna told her sister not to cry, or their mother would feel sad. At that moment, the landlord came knocking on the door. Seeing Han Sun lying there, she thought she was feigning illness. Han Sun struggled to get up and explained but fainted. She was then taken to the hospital. Fortunately, Han Sun's aunt in the United States had just returned home. She told Huna that her mother was malnourished, and her lumbar spine was damaged. Huna felt even more heartbroken for her mother but could do nothing. The aunt urged Han Sun to leave her 2 younger daughters in her care. daughter. Considering the children's future, Han Sun had no choice but to agree and let her two daughters go abroad with her. Watching her daughters leave, she wept uncontrollably. Huna witnessed everything. To save on medical expenses, Han Sun was discharged from the hospital that night. Though when the mother and daughters returned home, the landlord had thrown all their belongings out. They had no place to go and were left homeless. At that moment, Han Sun felt nothing but endless despair. She didn't know what to do to protect her children. Huna apologized to her mother because she was her daughter. If she were a son, her mother wouldn't have to suffer so much, and her sister wouldn't have to go to America. Han Sun pondered her daughter's words. A bold idea came to mind, so she told Huna that they were going to play a game. Han Sun wanted Huna to pretend to be a boy and return to her in-law's home. She then helped Huna cut her hair short and dress like a boy. She also changed Huna's name to Yoon-soon. Huna obediently followed her mother's instructions. Han Sun then returned to her in-law's home after 8 years. Ching Lan was shocked to see Han Sun bring back a son. She pretended to be calm and said her father-in-law wasn't home and they couldn't let guests in. Han Sun didn't argue and said she'd come back when her father-in-law was home. Ching Lan could only stop the maid from telling her father-in-law about it. Unexpectedly, Dan Lu saw Huna on the street. She looked exactly like his own son when he was young. The grandfather and grandson couldn't help but want to get closer. After confirming Huna's parents' names, Dan Lu immediately recognized her as his grandson. Upon seeing his daughter-in-law, Dan Lu realized how difficult their lives had been. Han Sun only asked to register Huna's household registration under her father-in-law's name. Dan Lu, who loved his grandson so much, naturally wouldn't refuse. Ching Lan heard that Han Sun was helping his son register his household registration and couldn't stay calm. In their eyes, the current Hwan Yu-so sauce was her son Ragon. The mother and daughter thought they had to find a way to stop it. Jong Kun suddenly remembered that Han Sun had been diagnosed as infertile years ago, so this child must not be Min-soo's. The two found Han Sun and demanded a paternity test. Han Sun hesitated, because if they did the test, Huna's true identity would be revealed. Seeing Han Sun's reaction, the two became even more certain that their deduction was correct. But to their surprise, a few days later, Han Sun agreed to the paternity test. He only told them one thing: Min-soo had already passed away. How could they do a paternity test now? This left the two of them at a loss, but it also made them even more determined to do the test, even if it meant exhuming the body. So Ching Len mentioned this to Dan Lu. Dan Lu was furious that they wanted to dig up his son's grave unless he was dead. The two began to worrying again. Jong Kun couldn't even sleep. Thinking about it, she suddenly remembered that Min-soo had stored his sperm at the hospital. Even without digging up the body, they could still do the test. Huna came to her grandfather's office and had a particularly pleasant time with him. Dan Lu even took her home to teach her about making soy sauce. Huna was very interested. Dan Lu was very pleased with this grandson and wanted her to come over every day. Han Sun saw this but didn't directly agree with his father-in-law. That day, Huna came to find her grandfather again. Ching Len looked at her with disapproval. Huna was very interested in making soy sauce. Dan Lu really liked Huna. That evening, Han Sun came to pick up Huna. Ching Lan suggested pulling Huna's hair for a paternity test, but to her shock, the results showed a father-son relationship. She collapsed in despair. How had Huna managed to hide her true identity from her daughter? It turned out that Han Sun had given Ching Lan Ben Lu's hair instead of Huna's. The results would naturally show a father-son relationship. Ching Lan grew increasingly anxious, fearing Han Sun would eventually expel them. It turned out that 8 years ago, she had returned Han Sun's clothes to her under Ben Lu's name. In the Zong family, a woman being returned her clothes meant she had been divorced. That was why Han Sun hadn't come back to find Ban Lu. On Ban Lu's side, Ching Lan had made a fake carp key for him. She said Han Sun didn't want to manage the soy sauce warehouse anymore. She wanted to cut all ties with this family. This led to Han Sun wandering outside for 8 years. Now she is very worried that her plot will be exposed. To prevent Han Sun and Ban Lu from meeting, Jong Kun told her daughter to tell Han Sun that if he wants to see Ban Lu, he must go through her first. The next day, Ching Lan went to find Han Sun. She called out for a long time, but no one responded. Just as she was puzzled, Hu Ming arrived. Ching Lan was so scared that she fled in shame. After returning home, Ching Lan complained to her mother about how she almost got beaten up by a man. Jong Kun, who was unaware of the situation, thought that Han Sun had hired a bodyguard. The next day, the two of them came back again, unwilling to give up. When Ching Lan saw Huna, she rudely grabbed her, but she was pulled away by Hu Ming, who knocked her to the ground. Jong Kun, realizing that she was Hu Ming, tried to scold her, but was intimidated into silence by Hu Ming. Seeing this, Hu Ming pulled Huna away. The two were left behind, wailing in pain. Soon after, Han Sun came out to meet her. Ching Lan tried to bribe Han Sun with money, but Han Sun refused to accept it. In a moment of desperation, Ching Lan revealed the scheme she had once devised. Han Sun finally understood why her father-in-law had never sought her out all these years. Amid Ching Lan's concerns, Huna's household household registration was finally processed. Her name is now Yoon-soon, and she has completed her enrollment procedures. She is in the same grade as Ching-lan's son, Ra-gon. Han-sun had intended to tell her father-in-law about the wrongdoings Ching-lan had committed, but when she saw Yoon-soon happily learning how to make sauce with her grandfather, she suddenly didn't want to pursue the matter anymore. She only wanted Yoon-soon to have enough to eat and be able to go to school. This made Ching-lan completely at ease. However, when Ra-gon returned from summer camp and saw Yoon-soon getting out of her grandfather's car, he found her unfamiliar. He went to ask his mother who the boy was. Ching-lan could only deceive them by saying that he was the child of their father and his mistress. The two children believed her. Unexpectedly, Lucy accidentally saw her birth certificate and realized she wasn't her grandfather's granddaughter. The proud girl couldn't bear the blow and hid in the warehouse to cry. When Ching-lan found her, her eyes were filled with resentment, and she said, "I hate you." Before running out, Ching-lan believed her daughter was acting this way because of the sudden appearance of her younger brother, so she blamed everything on Han-sun. Han-sun was still helping Yoon-soon customize her school uniform. The seamstress asked Yoon-soon to take off her clothes to measure her bust. Han-sun hurriedly stopped her and told the seamstress to measure directly. Yoon-soon's identity as a girl must not be exposed. Soon it was the day Yoon-soon started school. Her older sister Hu-ming was very happy for her, but Yoon-soon thought that she was the only one who could go to school. It would be great if her sister could go to school with her. Hu-ming said that she could go later. Han-sun took out two boxes. One contained Yoon-soon's toes from when she was a girl. The other contained toes for bows. From now on, she had to like these toes just like bows did. He also told her never to let anyone take off her clothes. She had to be careful even when going to the bathroom. Yoon-soon remembered her mother's words firmly. She was going to ride to school with Ra-gon. She greeted Ra-gon in a friendly manner. Ra-gon, however, looked hostile. Ching-lan told Yoon-soon to sit in the front seat. Since the family placed great importance on rules, Ra-gon, as the eldest grandson, would be appointed as a trainee at the family company. Ben-lu decided to take the two of them to the sauce warehouse to have a look. Yoon-soon was very excited. Ra-gon was unhappy. He went back to complain to his sister about why Yoon-soon was also being taken along. Lucy was still angry about her background. She kicked Ra-gon out. She was resentful that she was treated differently from her two younger brothers. She schemed with her brothers to get rid of Yoon-soon. She silently vowed to herself that she would get more of her grandfather's affection than the two of them. Then Lu took his two grandsons to tour the sauce cellar. Then he had to leave first. Ra-gon glared at Yoon-soon with malice, thinking of a bad plan. Yoon-soon was still fascinated by the sauce jars. Ra-gon deliberately left him behind and told his mother that he didn't like Yoon-soon. He told him to go back on his own. So Ching-lan told the secretary that someone else would pick up Yoon-soon, and they should leave first. When Yoon-soon came to his senses, he realized that everyone was gone. After dark, she hid beside the soy sauce jar, cold and afraid. She wanted to cry, but she remembered what her mother had said. Before crying, think about how to solve the problem first. So she stood up and thought about what her grandfather had said. The direction where the sun rises is the direction of the entrance, and the direction where the sun rises is the direction of the moon. Soon she found the exit. As soon as she came out, she saw the lit fire. It turned out that Ben-lu knew Yoon-soon hadn't returned, so he came looking for her. Yoon-soon saw her grandfather and ran happily into his arms. After this incident, Ben-lu decided to take Yoon-soon home to live with them. This way, the family would have a bond. This made Ching-lan very regretful. Han-sun was a little worried about Yoon-soon. Yoon-soon comforted her, saying that now they wouldn't have to worry about food, and she could dress like Ra-gon. Actually, she just wanted to lighten her mother's burden. As soon as the two sisters stepped into the large family, Ching-lan's family looked at them with disdain. Hu-ming didn't understand their hostility. In the course of their conversation, he offended Ching-lan. This made Ching-lan very angry. She directly poured a bucket of water on the two sisters. Hu-ming quickly pulled his sister into the room and locked the door. He then helped her dry off, because she remembered her mother's words that no one was allowed to see her sister take off her clothes. The two were hungry and wanted to eat instant noodles. Unexpectedly, Ching-lan took them away and deliberately said that they couldn't eat anything. This left the sisters at a loss. At the dinner table, Ching-lan deliberately didn't let Hu-ming pick any food. She wasn't even allowed to eat rice. Poor Hu-ming could only eat some side dishes alone in her room. Yoon-soon saw her sister being bullied and said she would also eat there from now on. Ching-lan scolded her and threatened her not to tell Grandpa. On the other side, Lucy was just as bad as her mother. She instigated her brother to isolate Yoon-soon. So Ra-gon told his classmates that Yoon-soon was a beggar whose family was too poor to eat. So she came to their house to beg for food. Yoon-soon asked Ra-gon to explain to his classmates, but Ra-gon pushed him to the ground. Yoon-soon couldn't take it anymore and was about to fight back when Ching-lan Lan saw them. She locked Yoon-soon and Hu-ming in the warehouse and scolded them. The two were locked in the warehouse and made to stand as punishment. Then Ra-gon came over again and provoked them, saying they were beggars. Beggars should go back to their own place. So they started fighting again. This scene was witnessed by Ban Lu, who punished the children and told the family to get along. But that was impossible. Qing Lan came to Yoon-soon's room and said she would never let her off the hook, telling her to go ahead and report it. In the end, only Ra-gon would be left. Yoon-soon seemed to understand suddenly. She brought her mother some delicious pastries and didn't mention the difficulties she had faced. She didn't stay long before she had to leave again. She asked her mother to bring out her girl's box and bury it in the sauce cellar. She officially bid farewell to her identity as a girl. Before she could protect her mother, she would bury who not here. Soon after, Ra-gon was appointed as the apprentice master of the yellow soy sauce maker. Yoon-soon could only assist him. Time flew by. The children all grew up. Ra-gon still had his arrogant demeanor. Yoon-soon had grown into a handsome young woman. Every morning before leaving home, she would wrap her developing body with bandages. Now, Yoon-soon went to school during the day and wiped the soy sauce jars at night. Qing Lan's children, however, lived a life of privilege. Ra-gon looked down on Yoon-soon as she rode her bicycle to school. Yoon-soon's striking appearance made her popular among the girls, but because of this, other boys often pick on her. On the other side, Qing Lan has become the vice chairman of the foundation. She wants to infiltrate the circle of wealthy women. Han-sun is still renting a house outside. Yoon-soon often goes back with her sister to visit their mother, but she never mentions the hardships she faces. Han-sun has no idea about his daughter's situation. The sisters are happy to spend the night with their mother. They sneak back home but bump into Qing Lan. Qing Lan calls Yoon-soon into the room and confronts her about why she came back so late. No matter what she says, Yoon-soon doesn't deny it. This makes her even more furious, but she thinks that once Ra-gon turns 18 and becomes the heir, she can kick Yoon-soon out. She feels relieved again. However, Ra-gon, who had always been at the top of her class, was overshadowed by Yoon-soon this time. Yoon-soon won the International Olympiad Award. The award ceremony would take place on the day of the founding anniversary celebration. The news would also be reported at the time. Taking advantage of her grandfather's good mood, Ra-gon suggested that her mother come to watch her receive the award. Ra-gon strongly opposed the idea, believing that her mother's presence would bring shame to the family. This time, Yoon-soon refused to back down. She insisted that her mother come. Ra-gon privately threatened Yoon-soon that if her mother showed up, she wouldn't let her off the hook. Yoon-soon said she would not back down. This was Han-sun's first time visiting her daughter's school. The mother and daughter were filled with joy. Ra-gon came to block their way. Yoon-soon took Ra-gon to another place to deal with her, but Ra-gon beat her up. Han-sun rushed over to protect her daughter. Meanwhile, the award ceremony was underway. Just when everyone thought Yoon-soon wouldn't show up, she appeared with injuries. When giving her acceptance speech, she specifically thanked her mother for giving birth to her. The crowd buzzed with discussion. Han-sun was deeply moved. Qing Lan, however, looked unhappy. Everyone had always thought she was the owner of the Hwan-Yu soy sauce company. Han-sun's appearance made her lose face. Yoon-soon told her mother not to worry too much about her. Ra-gon only acts like this occasionally. She made the whole thing sound so easy. Han-sun finally realized how hard her daughter had been living. It turned out that Ra-gon always got first place because Yoon-soon intentionally got the answers wrong to lose to Ra-gon. Only by doing this could they survive in this family. Han-sun told her daughter that if she felt tired, she could just go back to being Hu-na. Yoon-soon hesitated to protect her mother. The next day, she challenged Ra-gon to a duel. If she lost, she would leave the family with her sister forever. If she won, Ra-gon would have to apologize to her mother. Ra-gon had always looked down on her, so he agreed without hesitation. They competed in kendo. At first, Yoon-soon was beaten badly. Ra-gon thought he had won and felt embarrassed, so he taunted Yoon-soon to attack him. Yoon-soon immediately took off her helmet and engaged in hand-to-hand combat with him. Despite her seemingly weak appearance, Yoon-soon landed a series of punches, knocking Ra-gon to the ground. Yoon-soon demanded that he honor their agreement and apologize to her mother. Ra-gon, humiliated and enraged, deliberately wrote a challenge letter in Yoon-soon's name to the leaders of other schools, challenging them to a one-on-one duel. Yoon-soon knew it was all Ra-gon's doing. After class, she was cornered in a corner. Yoon-soon calmly moved toward the fire hydrant. Just as they were about to fight, she dodged and grabbed the fire hose. Soon, a complaint call was made to the family. Qing Lan heard that her child had gotten into a violent altercation with others. She was very worried, thinking it was Ra-gon fighting with someone. However, she was relieved to learn from the teacher that it was Yoon-soon who had been involved in the fight. She then went to Ban Lu and spoke ill of Yoon-soon. Yoon-soon did not return home that night, leaving Ban Lu furious. Since Yoon-soon had used the fire hydrant to spray water at the others, several students were injured. The parents went went to the school demanding an explanation. Lu didn't even investigate and told the principal to handle it according to school rules. At that moment, Yoon-soon appeared. She voluntarily handed over her withdrawal application and told everyone that she didn't start the fight. Although she felt wronged, she would take responsibility for her actions. Therefore, she would withdraw from school as a form of accountability. Lu flew into a rage. Thinking she was too arrogant, Yoon-soon fearlessly told her grandfather that she wanted to learn the art of soy sauce making. She also insisted on joining Ragon's 12-step course for making dragon sauce. It wasn't until late at night that she returned home and knelt before her grandfather. She begged him to allow her to learn soy sauce making. Lu grew even angrier. He refused to let her inside until she had thoroughly reflected on her actions. Thus, Yoon-soon spent the entire night kneeling in the courtyard. Han-sun rushed over upon hearing the news and saw her daughter kneeling on the ground. Feeling deeply heartbroken, it was Yoon-soon who had been wronged, yet she was the one being punished. Han-sun told her daughter to finish her studies first. Yoon-soon knew exactly what she wanted. No matter where she studied, as long as she graduated from high school, she would regain her identity as a daughter. At that point, she would still have nothing and couldn't protect her mother. She wanted to obtain the property and power to become a person of influence. Han-sun saw how much her daughter had suffered. She finally made up her mind to return to the family with a lawyer. She threatened Ching Lan that legally, she was still the matriarch of the family. If you dare to bully my son again, I will prevent your son from learning the soy sauce making course. Ching Lan, seeing this, decided not to confront Yoon-soon for now. Lu finally found out that the thugs who had fought with Yoon-soon were sent by Ragon. But before he could punish Ching Lan admitted her mistake voluntarily. Lu, upholding the idea of family harmony, chose not to pursue the matter. In the end, he agreed to let Yoon-soon learn soy sauce brewing with Ragon, but he required them to teach each other. He wanted the two to get along harmoniously. 6 years later, Yoon-soon had reached the 5th stage of the dragon sauce 12 stages. During the smell test, she had difficulty distinguishing between the concentrations of the soy sauce. She then thought of using the water from the ox well as a reference. She went to the outskirts to find the ox well. However, she fainted due to feeling unwell. At that moment, a man named Yoon-chan caught her in time. Yoon-chan was instantly smitten by the girl before him. He helped Yoon-soon loosen her collar to let some air in. As Yoon-soon was about to wake up, Yoon-chan noticed another figure. He picked up Yoon-soon's carp key and hid nearby. Another man also discovered Yoon-soon. When Yoon-soon woke up, she thought the man in front of her had saved her. The man's name was Do-han. He was the son of Seo, the chairman of the top conglomerate S Group. Yoon-chan was a child adopted by Seo when he was young. Therefore, he had been working for the chairman all along. Due to a company partnership, Do-han and Yoon-chan both ended up working at the soy sauce factory. Seeing that Yoon-soon had woken up, Yoon-chan quietly left. Yoon-soon felt unwell, but dared not go to the hospital. She feared her identity as a woman would be exposed, so she could only return home and lie down. Several days later, she realized her carp key was missing. Ching Lan and her mother were constantly scheming to find a wealthy husband for their daughter. She was very satisfied with the matchmaker's choice. However, Lucy dismissed it with disdain. She looked down on these small families. She wanted to marry into a top-tier family like the S Group. She knew that with her family's background, it would be difficult to climb up the social ladder. But once she became a news anchor, things would be different. Yoon-chan couldn't stop thinking about Yoon-soon after seeing her. When he returned to the forest, he couldn't find her anywhere, until one day, he saw Yoon-soon at the Hwangyu Soy Sauce Company. He was about to approach her, but she walked away. That day was the 5th test for Yoon-soon and Ragon. Yoon-chan saw Yoon-soon again. He asked someone nearby what they were doing. The person told him that Yoon-soon was a boy and the son of the chairman, Lu. Yoon-chan couldn't believe it. Soon, the test began. Lu asked the two to predict tomorrow's other using their sense of smell. Ragon quickly determined that it would be sunny. He smelled the aroma of beans being cooked in the fermentation room. He deduced this conclusion based on airflow and air pressure. Yoon-soon, however, believed it would be cloudy. She thought the smell was coming from the sauce warehouse. On the other side, Ching Lan was very happy. She had checked the weather forecast and tomorrow was supposed to be sunny. Yoon-soon came to the brewery to confirm. They had indeed been boiling beans during their competition. She realized her sense of smell wasn't as good as Ragon's. That day, she was carrying a heavy box and was blocked by Yoon-chan on the way. Yoon-chan suddenly asked her if she was a bull. Yoon-soon was angry that he asked such a question. She didn't want to respond and prepared to move the boxes. However, Yoon-chan easily lifted the boxes with just a light touch. This made Yoon-soon feel a bit down. She thought that as a girl, she hadn't inherited the sharp sense of smell unique to the men in her family. The next day was indeed sunny. Yoon-soon answered incorrectly. However, the test results showed that Ragon failed and Yoon-soon passed. The two went to ask their grandfather for an explanation. Lu said that he had asked them to teach each other. Ragon had had to take responsibility for Yoon-soon's mistake. That was the meaning of having them teach each other. Ching-lan was very dissatisfied and scolded Yoon-soon. Yoon-soon suggested retaking the test and insisted on doing it tomorrow. This time, Ben-lu asked them to determine when lightning would strike. Ra-gon said it would be at 4 a.m. Yoon-soon thought it would be around 9 p.m. because she smelled the earthy scent of the yellow ox well. Sure enough, there was lightning and thunder that night. Yoon-soon answered correctly. She finally breathed a sigh of relief. Ra-gon was puzzled because he hadn't smelled the earthy scent of the yellow ox well. This time, Yoon-soon failed the test, but the three women were all very excited because Yoon-soon got it right. Her sense of smell is clearly not as good as Ra-gon's. So how did she get it right? It turns out she met Yoon-chen again later. She got inspiration from his words. Since she can't change the fact that she's a girl, she should play to her strengths. She looked it up and found that the three hormones in girls only appear together once a year. When they all reach their peak levels at the same time, a girl's sense of smell becomes 10 times more sensitive than a boy's. Yoon-soon had been keeping track of her menstrual cycle and knew that today was her peak day. That's why she won. The next day, Yoon-soon encountered Yoon-chan at the company and thanked him. The two chatted happily. Yoon-soon even asked Yoon-chan to be her older brother. Meanwhile, Zhu, who appeared to be on good terms with Ben-lu, was planning to take over the Hwang-Yu-so sauce company. He needed Yoon-chan's help. Yoon-chan hesitated. He thought of Yoon-soon, who was the daughter of the Hwang-Yu-so sauce family. This might affect her. At the same time, Den-lu discovered that mold had appeared on the soy sauce cakes, making it impossible to continue brewing soy sauce. He decided to use this as the sixth challenge. He ordered his two grandsons to figure out how to destroy the 67,000 soy sauce cakes in 3 days. Yoon-soon directly used charcoal for the experiment. Ra-gon sought out a senior professor as an advisor. Ching-lan found out that Yoon-soon had been studying all night. She left early the next morning. She decided to play a trick on her. She intentionally gave Hu-ming perfume. Hu-ming initially suspected her motives, but when Ching-lan sprayed some perfume on her, she was charmed and happily accepted it. Soon, Yoon-soon received a call. Ching-lan said that Hu-ming had ruined Ra-gon's materials. The reason was that Hu-ming had smeared perfume on the grade of soybeans. She demanded that Yoon-soon take responsibility for selecting new soybeans. As a result, Yoon-soon's precious time was spent sorting soybeans. Han-sun found out that her daughter had been picking beans all night. She knew it was Ching-lan's doing, so she asked Hu-ming to tell Ching-lan a few words. Unexpectedly, Hu-ming rudely warned the other party. This made Ching-lan furious. She scolded Hu-ming harshly. Poor Hu-ming became the scapegoat. Ching-lan also found an excuse to clear out Yoon-soon's books, so that she wouldn't be able to look up information. Han-sun was so angry that she called Ching-lan and had a heated argument with her. Ching-lan, furious, went to Han-sun's place and overturned her dining table. Han-sun didn't back down and found out that Ching-lan was painting in her studio. She smashed the painting Ching-lan had been working on for a month. This enraged Ching-lan so much that she went into a frenzy. Meanwhile, Yoon-soon had been picking up soybeans all night and suddenly thought that instead of throwing them away, she could use them for something else, so she decided to go to the well to fetch water for her experiment. Do-han also happened to arrive at the well to conduct his own experiment. Yoon-soon mistakenly thought he was going to pose in the well. She swung a stick at him. Do-han was knocked unconscious. Yoon-soon finally recognized him as her savior. But when Do-han woke up, the two started arguing. The next day, the three met in the brewery and realized they knew each other. Late into the night, Yoon-soon was still picking beans. Yoon-chen saw this and secretly helped her pick beans all night. Den-lu wanted to choose an heir as soon as possible, and prepared to award various prizes to the winner in the 6th round. The winner would then accompany him to public events. This was a great opportunity. When Yoon-soon arrived at the company in the morning, she found that the beans had already been picked. However, Ching-lan had replaced them and deliberately said that she had picked them incorrectly, forcing her to start over. The test was tomorrow. Yoon-soon had no choice but to pick the beans here. She suddenly thought of a good idea. Use bamboo charcoal and salt to remove the perfume smell from the beans. Then she wouldn't have to pick them again. Soon, it was time for the test. With the help of many experts, Ra-gon suggested using the waste from the sauce cakes as feed. Everyone was very optimistic. Yoon-soon didn't have time to prepare, so she only suggested crushing the sauce cakes into fertilizer, but Ra-gon immediately refuted her. Crushing sauce cakes was very difficult work. The written exam results would be announced the next day. It was clear that Ra-gon would win. Ching-lan had already prepared to celebrate in advance. Yoon-soon, feeling dejected, went to the warehouse, but found that the red mold on the soybean paste had disappeared. This made her very excited. She immediately ran to tell her grandfather. It turned out that Yoon-soon had placed bamboo charcoal and salt in the warehouse to remove the perfume scent from the beans, and had removed the red mold from the sauce cakes. Ben-lu was thrilled that so many sauce cakes wouldn't have to be discarded. On the other side, Ching-lan thought her son had won for sure. She dressed up specially and came to Han-sun's side, ready to scold her when the results were announced. However, the colors Ben-lu chose were all Yoon-soon Sun's. Qing Lan was speechless. Seeing Han Sun's jaw, she could only slink away. Han Sun and her mother celebrated happily. Qing Lan lay in bed, sighing in frustration. She began to feign illness and blamed Yun Sung for obstructing Ragon's future. She demanded that Yun Sung step down from her position as head of the various colors and give it to Ragon. To her surprise, Yun Sung refused her request. Qing Lan then deliberately went on a hunger strike and told Yun Sung to move out. Yun Sung couldn't bear it and agreed to move to the employee dormitory. Coincidentally, Du Han also moved in and shared the same dormitory with her. Yun Sung had thought she would be alone. She was surprised. After all, she was a girl. But now there was no way out. When she returned in the evening, she discovered that Du Han had taken off his shirt. She was startled and asked Du Han why he wasn't wearing any clothes. Du Han, however, thought it was normal for boys to do so. That day, the secretary told Ban Lu that he had been awarded the National Medal of Honor. The whole family was overjoyed and congratulated him. Jong Soon immediately sensed trouble. She thought that when Ban Lu accepted the medal, he would bring Yun Sung along. Then Yun Sung would be reported by the media. Everyone would think that Yun Sung was the heir. This was not good news for them. On the other side, Yun Sung followed her grandfather and carefully took notes on the things to keep in mind when making soy sauce. She was grateful for this opportunity. Ragon was very upset to learn that Yun Sung might attend the ceremony with her grandfather. He arrogantly went to test her grandfather. Ben Lu said that he would indeed take Yun Sung with him. Ragon was dissatisfied and picked on Yun Sung. He asked her to tell her grandfather that she wouldn't go. Yun Sung doesn't even bother to respond. Ragon pushes Yun Sung angrily. Yun Sung fights back. Ragon tries to attack again but is stopped by Yun Chan. That day, Yun Sung wears a suit to attend her grandfather's medal award ceremony. Her stylish appearance leaves Yun Chen and Du Han speechless. At the medal award ceremony, Yun Sung made her first public appearance. After the news was reported, it sparked widespread discussion online. Netizens said Yun Sung was very handsome. Journalists also said she was the heiress of the Hwang Soy Sauce Company. Ragon, seeing Yun Sung stealing the spotlight, went to complain to his grandfather. He demanded that his grandfather take him along whenever he took Yun Sung out in the future. However, Ben Lu said that Yun Sung had earned it through her own abilities. The rules couldn't be changed. Qing Lan insisted that Yun Sung and Ragon shouldn't be allowed to take classes together anymore. Their conversation was overheard by Hu Ming. She relayed it to Han Sun. Han Sun angrily called Qing Lan out to confront her about why she did that. Qing Lan retorted that her son was the eldest son and the future heir. Now, because of Yun Sung, he had lost face, and that wasn't fair. Han Sun asked Qing Lan on what grounds she believed Ragon was the future heir. She believed that the eldest son born to the original wife should inherit. Qing Lan was at a loss for words. Han Sun warned her not to hinder Yun Sung's studies, or else she wouldn't hold back. On the other side, Lu Shi finally found out that Du Han was the heir to the S group. She was very upset because she had accidentally met Du Han a few times before, but since she saw him taking the bus, she thought he was a poor guy. Now she regretted it. Until this day, she finally got her chance. She heard a girl arguing with a security guard at the company and kept shouting Du Han, brother, so she intentionally helped the girl. She knew it was Du Han's sister, Du Yun. Sure enough, Du Han's opinion of her changed. He foolishly believed that all their coincidental encounters were fate. He asked Yun Sung to analyze whether Lu Shi could be his destined girlfriend. Yun Sung said sarcastically that too many coincidental encounters might indeed be fate. Du Han didn't notice the sadness in Yun Sung's eyes. He even joked, if you were a woman, we would really be destined for each other. This made Yun Sung even more upset. On the other side, Ragon, who was unhappy with Yun Sung, intentionally bribed a reporter. He had the reporter write that Yun Sung was the son of a concubine. He claimed that he was the son of the legitimate wife. He was also the heir to the Hwang Soy Sauce family. Qing Lan was overjoyed upon seeing the report. The mother and daughter praised their son for being outstanding. However, Den Lu had never announced an heir. He asked Ragon if he had done it. Ragon denied it. Den Lu temporarily believed him. Soon, the news reached Han Sun. Han Sun couldn't believe that she, the legitimate wife, was being slandered so viciously. She angrily confronted Qing Lan and the others. Why is my child being called a bastard? You should know very well who the concubine is. Qing Lan initially spoke with confidence. She believed that whoever had lived in the house longer was the legitimate wife. But then Ragon returned. Ragon saw Han Sun sitting at home and spoke rudely. Qing Lan, knowing she was in the wrong, tried to send her son away, but Ragon instead sat down arrogantly. He demanded that Han Sun leave his house immediately. Lu Shi also said that Han Sun couldn't come here. Han Sun smiled at them. Then he revealed the truth. Ragon and Lu Shi were speechless upon hearing the truth. They never imagined that they were the children of a concubine. Han Sun then produced the family relationship certificate and told Yun Sung that she could now attend school locally. In Lu Ji's eyes, who was the legitimate wife and who was the concubine didn't matter. All she cared about was not interfering with her marriage into a wealthy family. Ragon was just as shameless as his mother. Even after learning the truth, he still blamed Han Sun for ruining his future. So he hired some thugs to go to Han Sun's workplace and cause trouble. They even attacked Han Sun. Yoon Soon rushed over to protect her mother, but was struck by Ra-gon. Yoon Soon, unwilling to back down, struck Ra-gon in return. Ra-gon's accomplices tried to gang up on them. Fortunately, Yoon Chen arrived and stopped Ra-gon. Ra-gon, however, was overconfident and ignored Yoon Chan. Trying to attack him again, he was thrown to the ground by Yoon Chan. The thugs were also quickly subdued. Ching Lan arrived and screamed in terror. In the end, they all ended up at the police station. The media rushed to the scene and started filming. The scandal involving the few individuals made headlines. Everyone was worried. Yoon Soon was also troubled. Yoon Chen came to Yoon Soon and knelt down on one knee. Yoon Soon noticed his posture and reminded him it was awkward. Yoon Chen didn't care and applied a cartoon band-aid to her. On the other side, Dan Lu was furious. He called a family meeting to discuss how to handle the scandal. Han Sun laid everything out on the table, revealing that the family relationships were complicated. The concubine was Ching Lan. The eldest son was Ra-gon. She demanded that her father-in-law clarify who the family heir was. She wanted an acceptable explanation, but Ban Lu countered by asking Han Sun who she thought was suitable. Han Sun was at a loss for words. At that moment, reports surfaced that Ra-gon was not the biological son of the eldest wife. This forced Ban Lu to make a decision. After thinking it over for a night, he announced his decision. The family heir would be decided through a competition. Yoon Soon and Ra-gon would compete against each other. The winner would be chosen as the heir. The competition would have 2 rounds. The one with the higher score would win. In the first round, they had to find each other's weaknesses and come up with questions for each other. Ching Lan wanted to use this opportunity to completely defeat her opponent, so she approached Han Sun to negotiate. The loser would have to leave the family forever. Han Sun didn't want any more trouble with her, so he accepted the bet. Yoon Soon, wanting to help her mother regain her position as the mistress of the house, made the same bet with Ra-gon. Ra-gon's challenge was to bring back water better than the water from the yellow ox well, which could be used to brew a vat of soy sauce. Within 5 days, Yoon Soon, on the other hand, was tasked with finding the best salt for soy sauce. She discovered that truffle water was the best. However, collecting dew would be extremely difficult. Ra-gon obstructed her at every turn, refusing to give her the tools she needed. He also instructed his employees to give Yoon Soon a broken ladder. Yoon Soon, unaware of the danger, climbed the tall ladder to collect dew. The wood broke, and she fell down. She was stabbed in the abdomen by branches and lost a lot of blood. Yoon Chen had a bad feeling and called Yoon Soon. Yoon Soon saw the call, but dared not answer it because she couldn't reveal her identity as a girl. She had to endure the pain. That night, she tried to hide it from Yoon Chan, but Yoon Chan noticed something was wrong and pulled her hand away. The scene before her eyes was horrifying. Yoon Soon insisted on not going to the hospital and begged Yoon Chan not to tell anyone. Yoon Chan couldn't understand her and insisted on taking her to the hospital. Yoon Soon had no choice but to call her mother and sister. Han Sun was heartbroken to see her daughter so badly injured. She ignored her daughter's objections and insisted on calling an ambulance. Yoon Soon suggested using her sister Hu Ming's identity to receive treatment, so the 3 of them supported each other and left. They refused Yoon Chan's offer to take them. They went to a hospital farther away. When the doctor called Hu Ming's name, Hu Ming didn't react and answer directly. This aroused the doctor's suspicion, so he asked a few more questions. Yoon Soon didn't expect this incident to become the beginning of the revelation of her secret. Yoon Chan felt more and more that something was wrong. He knew Yoon Soon had a secret but couldn't figure out what it was. To avoid arousing suspicion, Yoon Soon checked out of the hospital after staying for just 1 day. Ching Lan heard that Yoon Soon had fractured her ribs and was overjoyed. She believed her son had won. She brought a lawyer to meet Han Sun. Their agreement would serve as proof. No one could go back on their word. Han Sun trusted Yoon Soon and signed the agreement immediately. Since Yoon Soon was seriously injured, she couldn't go out to collect dew for the time being. Yoon Chan found her a clay jar to purify the water. Du Han also volunteered to help her collect dew, but after a whole day of work, he only managed to collect a small cupful. Yoon Soon thought of mixing truffle water with yellow cow well water, then distilling and stirring it to make sweet dew water. This would be the best choice. So this difficult task was once again handed to Du Han. While discussing it, Du Han inadvertently leaned closer to Yoon Soon. This ambiguous posture made Yoon Soon's heart race. She kept reminiscing about their interactions, her face flushing with excitement. She didn't know that Yoon Chan was begging Chairman Seo for her sake. He was willing to ruin the ox sauce business to protect her. Soon, it was time for the competition. Yoon Soon and Ra-gon both handed their answers to their grandfather, but Ban Lu wasn't in a hurry to announce the results. He wanted to see their character first. As soon as the 2 sides came out, they ran into each other. They couldn't help but mock each other. At that moment, a group of women came running over, calling out Madam. Ching Lan thought they were calling her, but they were actually calling Han Sun. They were old employees of Huan Yu Soy Sauce. They had come to cheer for Yoon Soon. They didn't acknowledge Ching Lan's identity at all. Ching Lan was furious and told Ra-gon to remember their identities. Once Ra-gon took office, she planned to fire all of them. However, Ben Lu found out about this. That day, Do-yoon held a bouquet of flowers and waited for Yoon-soon. Just then, Yoon-soon walked out. Do-yoon was instantly captivated. It was as if she was glowing. Was this love at first sight? She quickly took out her phone and started taking pictures. Do-yoon was very happy to be charmed by Yoon-soon's good looks, but she didn't know that Yoon-soon was actually a girl. After investigating, she found out that Yoon-soon was the second son of the Hwang-yu-so-sauce company, and Yoon-soon's grandmother was the same grandmother she knew. The so-called Yoon-soon's grandmother had no idea that her scheme to frame the old employees had been discovered by Ban Lu. She was thinking about how to build her own power base. Just then, Do-yoon called. She invited Do-yoon over to her house for a visit. Ching-len and her mother were very excited. They plotted to marry Lu-shi to Do-yoon's older brother, Do-han. They also planned to match Do-yoon with their own son, Ra-gon. They had no idea that Do-yoon was actually interested in Yoon-soon. The next day, Do-yoon came over to visit. Ching-len kept flattering her. Do-yoon laughed along with her. Jong-soon told Do-yoon, "You have a special connection with our family." This made Do-yoon very happy. She thought Lu-shi was Yoon-soon's sister. Jong-soon thought everything was going very smoothly. It wasn't until dinner that Ching-len found out Do-yoon had come for Yoon-soon. Lu-shi told Do-yoon that Yoon-soon and Do-han were roommates. Do-yoon was even more excited. She suggested that Yoon-soon bring Do-han home for dinner. Ching-len and her daughter thought it was a good idea. They were thinking of setting Lu-shi and Do-han up, so she pretended to be a good mother and called Yoon-soon to ask her to bring Do-han home for dinner. The next day, Do-yoon came to her brother's dormitory. As soon as she saw Yoon-soon, she fell head over heels for him. She immediately hugged Yoon-soon. Yoon-soon looked confused. After Do-han introduced her, he realized she was his sister. Do-yoon kept complimenting Yoon-soon on his good looks. It made him feel overwhelmed. Do-yoon even asked Yoon-soon when he was going to marry her, but soon, she was taken away by her father's subordinate. In the end, only Yoon-soon and Do-han went to visit the family. Ching-len and her daughter enthusiastically pulled Do-han to sit down. They completely ignored Yoon-soon. Then they sent Yoon-soon away. Yoon-soon and his sister could only stay in the room to eat. Later, Yoon-soon learned from the nanny that Do-han was the son of the S group. Ching-len's purpose was to have him marry her daughter. Ching-len prepared a lavish meal to entertain Do-han. Lu-shi took the opportunity to chat with Do-han to try to get closer to him. Yoon-soon came out and saw everyone chatting animatedly outside. She felt depressed and left. She told herself that she was now living as a boy. She shouldn't yearn for love. Just then, Do-han came out. The two were talking, but they looked like a young couple. Lu-shi happened to see this and felt a pang of jealousy. Meanwhile, Ching-len was going to great lengths to marry her daughter into a wealthy family. She ground oysters into a sauce and mixed it into the dishes. She also added almonds and raspberries to the steam bags. She wanted her daughter to win Do-han over. It turned out that Lu-shi had invited Do-han again to speed things up. Ching-len and her mother specially recommended those two dishes and turned off the heater. If they felt cold, they would hug each other. After doing all this, the two sneaked out of the house. Do-han noticed it was getting colder and colder. Lu-shi pretended not to notice, but she never expected Hu-ming to still be inside. Hu-ming called Yoon-soon and said it was cold at home. Yoon-soon then returned. She saw Do-han and Lu-shi cooking, and left in a bad mood. Seeing her sister shivering from the cold, Yoon-soon went to the heating room to check on the situation. Unexpectedly, the water pipe had burst, soaking her completely. Do-han also arrived at that moment. Since Yoon-soon couldn't let go of the clothes, Do-han offered to help her change. Yoon-soon was nervous that he would discover her identity as a girl, but she couldn't resist his persistence. When Do-han was drying Yoon-soon's hair, he suddenly felt something different. This scene was seen by Lu-shi. At the same time, Yoon-chan found a prescription slip. The name was Hu-ming, but the medicine inside was suitable for Yoon-soon's wound. This made him very confused. Now Do-han feels uncomfortable looking at Yoon-soon. He thinks there's something wrong with his sexual orientation. At night, Yoon-soon's wound hurts again. She secretly takes the medicine and tries to go out to treat it. Just then, she runs into Yoon-chan. Her unusual behavior catches Yoon-chan's attention, but Yoon-chan doesn't think much of it. Rumors begin to spread at the So-sauce company, claiming that Yoon-soon and Ra-gon had the same score in the air selection process. Yoon-soon ignored the rumors. She focused solely on improving her abilities. Ra-gon, however, couldn't sit idly by. He wouldn't allow any accidents to happen. He decided to steal the test questions for the second round. Ching-len bribed Secretary Young. She sneaked into the chairman's office. After finding the test questions, she asked the secretary to print a copy for her. Ra-gon couldn't wait and looked at the questions in advance. Everyone finally felt relieved. If he scored 0 this time, even if he stole the exam questions, he would still lose. On the other side, Den-lu discovered that someone was buying a large amount of company shares. He decided to move up the second round of tests for the heir to next week. Ching-len became even more anxious upon hearing this. She couldn't even sleep properly. The mother and daughter discussed going to sneak a peek at the results early. If Ra-gon scored 0, they would switch their scores. Because Banlu hadn't seen the test results yet, that the test results were locked in a safe, they didn't know the password, so they decided to swap the safe. Qinglan and her son brought the safe to Banlu's office. Just as they were about to change the safe, they discovered that it was already open. Qinglan opened the report card without hesitation. She was stunned. It was blank. At that moment, Danlu returned to the office. Both of them were startled. Then Banlu called in the judges. It turned out that no scores had been given at all. The purpose was to see their true character. Ra-gon blamed everything on Yoon-soon again. He believed that Yoon-soon had known about it all along. Otherwise, why didn't he do anything when he heard the rumors? Yoon-soon said that it was because Ra-gon was too cunning that this situation had arisen. Ra-gon was furious and tried to hit Yoon-soon again. However, Yoon-soon pushed him away. Seeing Qinglan get what she deserved, Han-sun and her daughter were very happy. The doctor who treated Yoon-soon that day unexpectedly came to the company. Yoon-soon, fearing her identity would be exposed, hurriedly hid but accidentally touched her wound. This scene was witnessed by Yoon-chan. She had no choice but to flee in a hurry. It turned out that the doctor was Lu Ji's admirer. However, Lu Ji's heart was now set on Du-han. She couldn't possibly be interested in a doctor. She gave Du-han a card, proposing they date for a month first. Du-han began to doubt his own sexual orientation because of Yoon-soon. He agreed without hesitation. Yoon-soon was in great pain from her wound. That night, she fainted in front of Yoon-chan. While helping her undress, Yoon-chan discovered her secret. She was actually a girl. Everything made sense now. Yoon-chan felt relieved. It turned out that he had feelings for her because she was a girl. Knowing that Yoon-soon had her reasons, he decided to keep her secret. He then called his doctor friend to help treat her wound. The next day, he acted as if nothing had happened. Yoon-soon thought she hadn't been discovered and was in a good mood. The second round of tests was about to begin. In order to make them obey the results, Danlu drew up a contract. The winner would become the heir. The loser would only be an assistant. At the same time, all the family members signed the contract. The second round of test questions were only disclosed to Yoon-soon and Ra-gon. They would be locked in the test site for 48 hours. They could only bring 2 items that would be helpful for the test. Qinglan thought it was good that she had stolen the test questions in advance and knew they were about wine jars. Ra-gon decided to bring a wine jar and salt. Salt could be used to disinfect the wine jar. Everything could be done. Yoon-soon thought that 3 things were needed to make soy sauce, namely, a jar, soybean paste, and salt. She decided to bring the jar and soybean paste. The test began. Ra-gon was shocked when he saw the test questions. The questions were completely different from what he had stolen. This time, the task was to make the best soy sauce in 48 hours. But they only had 2 materials. It was impossible to make soy sauce in such a short time. 12 hours had already passed. The 2 of them still didn't know where to start. Their eyes involuntarily turned to each other's materials. That was exactly what they needed. Qinglan found out about the test question and secretly asked an old employee of the company for help and obtained the secret recipe. They decided to make fish sauce. That was the only thing they could make in such a short time. But how were they going to get the answer in? Qinglan approached her father-in-law, claiming she needed to deliver allergy medication to Ra-gon. Banlu, who already knew her intentions, told her to leave the medicine and he would deliver it himself. Qinglan could only leave in frustration. Yoon-soon didn't want to waste any more time. She suggested they collaborate. Only by combining their ingredients could they make the soy sauce. Ra-gon, however, dismissed the idea with disdain. A heated argument ensued, and they came to blows. Ra-gon even smashed Yoon-soon's pot. Yoon-soon had just dozed off when she woke up with a start. She told herself that she could do it. She then closed her eyes and thought hard. Finally, she thought of a way to change the fermentation method. The next day, Banlu decided to give them an hour of free time to bring in one more essential item. Qinglan took the opportunity to bring Ra-gon the secret recipe. Yoon-soon asked her mother to bring her some aged soy sauce. Ra-gon began making his fish sauce. Yoon-soon used a flower pot as a jar. She added clear water, soy sauce cakes, and aged soy sauce to speed up the fermentation process. Both agreed to set the temperature to the highest setting. After the exam, Danlu tasted Ra-gon's fish sauce first. Then it was Yoon-soon's turn. She had used aged soy sauce to speed up the fermentation process. Soon, everyone was summoned. Danlu was going to announce the results in front of them. When they heard Banlu announce that Yoon-soon was the heir, Qinglan was so desperate, she almost fainted. Yoon-soon and her mother finally regained what had always been theirs. It turned out that in the second round of testing, the judges had unanimously given Yoon-soon's soy sauce a perfect score, because Ra-gon's fish sauce, though made with exceptional technique, didn't capture the true flavor of Hwang-yu soy sauce. The true secret to Hwang-yu soy sauce lies in fermentation. Yoon-soon had fully utilized this point. Qinglan couldn't accept the truth and felt fell ill in bed. Ben Lu decided to have the legal team enforce the contract. Qing Lan cried bitterly. The maid asked Lu Shi to comfort her. Lu Shi was too angry to go. She went to Ragon and scolded him harshly, blaming him for being useless and unable to defeat Yun Sun. Her dream of marrying into a wealthy family was about to be shattered. Despite their refusal to accept reality, Yun Sun was officially declared the heir. Du Han, who had feelings for Yun Sun, complained to him about his troubles. Yun Sun told him he would resolve the issue in 2 days. She decided to tell her grandfather that she was a girl. But just as she was about to tell him, news broke that the Yellow Ox soy sauce company was in crisis. Ragon and Qing Lan blamed Yun Sun for the crisis, but it was actually Ragon who had done it. He wanted his grandfather to know that Yun Sun was an unlucky person, which was why a crisis had arisen so soon after he became the heir. Unexpectedly, Ben Lu decided to transfer all his property and shares to Yun Sun and let her protect the Huangyu soy sauce company. The lawyer then demanded that Qing Lan hand over the warehouse keys. The position of the female owner was to be given to Yun Sun's mother. Qing Lan refused to hand them over no matter what. She cursed and tried to drive the lawyer out. Meanwhile, Yun Chen helped Yun Sun find out that it was Ragon who exposed the company's crisis. Yun Sun went straight to Ragon and exposed his actions. Qing Lan was furious and splashed water on Yun Sun's face. She also shouted that she would kick Yun Sun out. At that moment, Han Sun arrived and saw the scene, which made him very angry. Qing Lan even mocked Han Sun, calling him a beggar. Han Sun was so angry that he had someone tell his father-in-law about the incident. Qing Lan and her daughter finally realized the seriousness of the situation. Yun Sun demanded that they fulfill the contract immediately. She wanted to kick Qing Lan and her family out. This left Qing Lan and her family speechless. Yun Sun was about to give an interview to the media. At that time, the matter of her inheriting the estate would be made public. This also meant she couldn't reveal her true identity as a woman. Hu Ming decided to let his sister wear women's clothing once to meet the person she liked. So Yun Sun dressed in women's clothing and went to the place where she had agreed to meet Du Han. She gathered her courage and walked over to Du Han. Du Han was stunned the moment he saw her. Just then, the dance music started playing. Under the host's encouragement, the two of them went to the dance floor and spent a romantic moment together. Just as Du Han was about to ask Yun Sun about her identity, Du Yun arrived at the scene. Yun Sun fled in panic. When she came out, she bumped into Lu Shi. The earring she dropped was picked up by Lu Shi. On the other side, Qing Lan was forced to return the keys. She hurriedly contacted Han Sun to meet up. She planned to use this opportunity to destroy the contract. She first sends Hu Ming away and then tries to be nice to Han Sun. While Han Sun is out, Qing Lan grabs her bag and runs away. Ragon comes to help. While the two are frantically searching for the contract, Hu Ming hits Ragon on the head and demands they return the bag. Ragon pushes Hu Ming to the ground. Hu Ming, enraged, took off her hairpin and charged at Ragon. Ragon tried to fight back, but was caught off guard by Hu Ming, who threw him over her shoulder and slammed him to the ground. She then beat him mercilessly. Soon, news of the fight reached Ben Lu. This time, no matter how much Qing Lan begged for mercy, Ben Lu refused to relent and insisted on enforcing the contract. He demanded that they move out by tomorrow. Yun Chen noticed that Yun Sun was asleep and carried her into the room. He kissed her forehead. When he left, Yun Sun woke up. She suspected that Yun Chen already knew her true identity. The next morning, after Ben Lu instructed the lawyer to carry out the terms of the contract, he left, but they refused to leave. The bodyguards helped them pack their belongings. Each person was only allowed to take one suitcase. They could only take one set of clothes. Cash and jewelry were not allowed to leave the family. These rules were all established by Qing Lan. Zhang Sun tried to resist. The lawyer emphasized that no matter what happened, the contract must be enforced, and it was Qing Lan who specifically requested that this clause be added. Subsequently, the Qing Lan family was forcibly evicted. They could only stay in a dirty little inn. They even began to blame each other. What was even more desperate was that the suitcases contained only a mess of clothes. Zhang Sun didn't even have underwear to wear. Hu Ming looked at the empty room and laughed out loud in satisfaction. The secretary returned all the credit cards and VIP cards to Han Sun. On the other side, Qing Lan and her son tried to buy something to eat but found that their cards had been frozen. Ragon was so angry that he kicked the machine, but was scolded by the owner for being a beggar. Qing Lan stormed back to the family compound to confront Han Sun, but was kicked out by the bodyguards. Du Han was deeply shocked after seeing Yun Sun dress in women's clothing again. He even proposed to Yun Sun. Their conversation was overheard by Lu Shi, who had come to find Du Han. She fled in shock, but the more she thought about it, the more something felt off. Last time Yun Sun saw the doctor, She seemed very panicked. Lucy felt that she must have a secret, so she made an appointment with the doctor and showed him Yoon-soon's photo. Yoon-soon happened to be at the same cafe with Do-han. Seeing the two discussing her, she panicked and ran away without making a sound. But Lucy noticed her and chased after her. She became even more certain that Yoon-soon was hiding a secret from everyone, so he deliberately arranged for the doctor to come to the company. When Yoon-soon stepped out of the elevator, she bumped into them head-on. She could only pretend to be calm and flee the scene. She hurriedly hid but bumped into Yoon-chan. Yoon-chan noticed Yoon-soon's unusual behavior. He then saw Lucy with the doctor. He vaguely guessed what Yoon-soon was worried about. Yoon-soon panicked and hid in a corner of the library. Yoon-chan followed but didn't ask her why. He just offered to take her back to the dorm. After returning to the clinic, the doctor kept thinking he had seen Yoon-soon somewhere before. Just then, a nurse brought him a photo of Yoon-soon from the media. She said she looked a lot like the girl who had come in for treatment last time. This immediately rang a bell for him. He called Lucy and asked to meet her, saying he had a secret about Yoon-soon to tell her. This news would cause a huge upheaval at the company. Just as he hung up, Yoon-chan appeared in front of him. It turned out that Yoon-chan had already found out that this doctor was the one threatening Yoon-soon. He then beat up the doctor and threatened him to keep Yoon-soon's secret. He then obtained Yoon-soon's medical records and assigned his subordinates to monitor him. The doctor was so scared that he had no choice but to obey and even changed his tone toward Lucy. Lucy felt that he must be hiding something. Soon, she began to suspect Yoon-soon's gender. She returned home and found the earrings she had picked up that day. She then recalled the woman she had bumped into that day. She was certain that Yoon-soon was a girl, so she deliberately arranged to meet Yoon-soon. She found two thugs to kidnap her. She wanted to confirm for herself that Yoon-soon was a girl. She ignored Yoon-soon's struggles and tore off her clothes. As she had expected, Yoon-soon was indeed a girl. Lucy was furious. Yoon-soon no longer defended herself. Lucy thought that once she exposed Yoon-soon's identity, Yoon-soon would lose everything. But at the same time, she could be with Do-han nobly, so she decided to keep this a secret for now. She demanded that Yoon-soon settle things with Do-han. Meanwhile, the Hwang-Yu sauce company was facing a major crisis. The AJ Group, which had secretly acquired shares to become the largest shareholder, was planning to hold a shareholders meeting to remove Ban Lu from his position. The reason was that the company's most important well, Hwang-Yu well, had been contaminated. In reality, all of this was orchestrated by Chairman Zhu. His goal was to destroy the Hwang-Yu sauce company. Ban Lu placed all his hopes on Yoon-soon, asking her to serve as interim chairman to save the company. Yoon-soon drew a clear line between herself and Do-han. She said they could only be friends. However, Ra-gon betrayed his grandfather at this critical moment and defected to the AJ Group. The AJ Group promised to let him manage the Hwang-Yu sauce company. They also gave him a large sum of money. After a few days of hardship, Ching Lan was overjoyed. She moved into an apartment and donned a mink coat to flaunt herself in front of Han Sun. Her actions naturally aroused Han Sun's suspicion. AJ Group was shrouded in mystery. Yoon-soon had no idea who was behind it. A man told her that the Yellow Ox sauce company had been targeted by Chairman Zhu. Zhu had used such methods against many companies. He had a subordinate named Yoon-chan who specialized in using violent means to deal with opponents. The man warned Yoon-soon to be careful of Yoon-chan. Yoon-soon couldn't believe it was true. Zhu had seemed so close to her grandfather on the surface, and Yoon-chan, who had been so kind to her, was actually like this. Later, Lucy came to tell her that Yoon-chan had discovered her true identity as a woman. To cover it up, he even used violence against the doctor. It turned out the doctor had told Lucy about the threats he received. Yoon-soon couldn't tell if Yoon-chan was good or bad anymore. When she saw him again, she couldn't help but feel afraid. Yoon-chan stepped forward and grabbed her. She coldly pushed him away and asked if he was a violent person. Yoon-chan was clearly hurt. He had indeed been a thug in the past, but for Yoon-soon, he had decided to give up that life. Meanwhile, Chairman Seo was pressing forward with his plans to file for court receivership against the Yellow Cow sauce company. He intended to put the company out of business. Yoon-soon had no evidence, so she called a press conference to publicly gather information about the AJA investment company. Yoon-chan, not wanting Yoon-soon to get hurt, he approached Do-han and told him that his father was the one behind the attacks on the Hwang-Yu sauce company, and asked him to persuade Zhu to back down. Do-han didn't believe his father was responsible, but still went back to verify and plead with his father to stop. Not only did he fail to persuade his father, but he also inadvertently revealed Yoon-chan's involvement. Upon hearing that Yoon-chan had defied him for Yoon-soon's sake, Zhu decided to sabotage their relationship, so he anonymously sent Yoon-soon some information about Yoon-chan's purchase of shares in the sauce company. Yoon-soon was furious and confronted Yoon-chan. Yoon-chan tried to explain, but Yoon-soon wouldn't listen. Meanwhile, the doctor was preparing to flee the country. He handed all of Yoon-soon's backup medical records to Lucy. This scene was witnessed by Ra-gon. Ra-gon knew his sister was helping Yoon-soon hide a secret. He snatched her USB drive. It only contained Hu Ming's medical records, but the person who went for the diagnosis that that day was indeed Yoon-soon. He began to suspect Yoon-soon's identity. He rushed to the dormitory to confirm. He first found Yoon-soon's skirt. Then he found feminine hygiene products under the bed. He was certain that Yoon-soon was a girl, so he found her and confronted her angrily. Ra-gon was taken to the police station and temporarily detained. Yoon-soon was very nervous. She hid in the dormitory out of fear. Han-sun was also crying in distress. However, Yoon-chan overheard the mother and daughter's conversation. He came to the police station and took Ra-gon away. Ra-gon thought he had come to rescue him, but instead, he was taken to a warehouse and beaten up. He was then tied up. Yoon-soon found out that Ra-gon had been taken away by Yoon-chan. She remembered what others had said about Yoon-chan being the most violent thug. She began to worrying that Ra-gon might be hurt. When she found the warehouse, she released Ra-gon. After regaining his freedom, Ra-gon vowed to expose her. Yoon-soon knew everything was over. When Yoon-chan arrived, Yoon-soon not only failed to express gratitude, but also suspected his motives. Yoon-chan explained that he had indeed worked for Chairman Seo in the past. But now, you are the most important person to me. However, Yoon-soon no longer trusted him, as she once did. The next day, she received intelligence. It contained evidence of Chairman Seo's attack on the soy sauce company. But before she could hand the evidence over to her grandfather, the company was forced to shut down, and she was taken away for investigation. Du-han sought his father's help to save Yoon-soon. Scholar Zhu agreed to release Yoon-soon on the condition that he and Lu-shi moved to Italy to live. Yoon-chan was also locked up by Scholar Zhu and was to be sent abroad. Yoon-chan wanted to help Yoon-soon but was powerless to do so. Meanwhile, Ching-lan, upon learning Yoon-soon's identity, fiercely confronted Han-sun and tormented her. She then returned home and reported the matter to her father-in-law. Han-sun explained to her father-in-law that she had been forced to act that way. However, Dan-lu remained expressionless. Yoon-soon was stopped at the door as soon as she returned home. Dan-lu ordered her not to enter the house. After Dan-lu came out, Yoon-soon knelt down and cried, begging her grandfather to forgive her. However, Dan-lu coldly ordered her to leave the house. 1 year later, Hwang-yu Soy Sauce Company was acquired by S Group. Ra-gon took the position of representative. Ching-lan was living a carefree life. Lu-shi had married Du-han abroad. Yoon-soon's family, however, seemed to have vanished. On the other side, Yoon-chan also cut off contact with Chairman Zhu. He started his own company abroad. He had been searching for Yoon-soon but had no news of her, until one day, he discovered the whereabouts of Yoon-soon's mother. However, Han-sun refused to tell him about Yoon-soon. They had always misunderstood that Yoon-chan was the one who helped Chairman Zhu take over the Hwang-yu Soy Sauce Company. Yoon-soon hid on a small island and shut herself off, refusing to speak. Every day, she just stared blankly into the distance. Ra-gon's role as a representative wasn't going smoothly. He wanted to launch a product but was restricted because the formula for that product belonged to Yoon-soon. He needed her consent. In a fit of anger, he decided to cancel Yoon-soon's ID card and make her disappear. Meanwhile, Yoon-chan also found Yoon-soon. Yoon-soon didn't want to see him and grabbed some sand, throwing it at him and telling him to leave. Yoon-chan just looked at her helplessly. In the days that followed, he persisted in coming to find Yoon-soon. Despite being ruthlessly driven away, he didn't want to see Yoon-soon sink into despair, so he used words to provoke her, telling her to use her anger to bring down her enemies. Yoon-soon burst into tears, venting the grievances in her heart. Yoon-chan told her to use him to her advantage against Chairman Seo. It turned out that Yoon-chan had accidentally discovered he was Chairman Seo's illegitimate son. He also wanted to take revenge on his father, so he brought Yoon-soon documents about S Group. After reading the documents, Yoon-soon couldn't calm down for a long time. She went out onto the street but saw Du-han had already married and returned to the country, and the news that he and Ra-gon had taken over the Hwang-yu Soy Sauce Company. She covered her ears in agony, not wanting to hear any more. She then went to the beach, reminiscing about the past. Soon, she fainted. She suddenly dreamed of herself at 8 years old, telling herself that it wasn't over yet. She absolutely couldn't give up. When she woke up again, she regained her resolve. She told her mother that she was returning to Seoul. She could use her identity as a woman to brew soy sauce. She could do it better than Ra-gon. After returning to Seoul, Yoon-soon first found Yoon-chan. Though she didn't trust him yet, Yoon-soon needed his strength. Yoon-chan was willing to be used by her. The two decided to team up. Yoon-soon would be responsible for making soy sauce, while Yoon-chan would provide financial support. Next, Yoon-soon felt she needed to restore her identity as a woman. She changed her name back to Huna and decided to transform herself into a real woman. Yoon-chan hired a modeling teacher to correct her posture. She wore high heels, balance books on her head, and practiced walking on a balance beam. Yoon-chan watched her from the side. After training, Huna could walk steadily on the balance beam. At the same time, she also learned how to apply makeup. Soon, Huna's transformation was complete. Yunchen looked at her in amazement. She would start anew with a completely new identity. Meanwhile, the first batch of soy sauce from S Group was about to hit the market. However, Ragon couldn't brew soy sauce himself. He decided to find a contract manufacturer. This was Huna's chance. Although time was tight, she had brewed a batch of clear soy sauce a year earlier, when she was expelled from the Huanyu soy sauce company. That batch of soy sauce was also ordered to be discarded. Fortunately, it was saved by a few old employees. Huna can use it anytime. After tasting it, she found that the flavor not only remained the same but was even more fragrant and rich. She decided to participate in the public recruitment. The two named the company GH. Huna and Yunchen will serve as co-representatives. Ultimately, Huna's soy sauce received unanimous praise. The secretary thought it tasted even better than Banlu's. Even Ragon was very satisfied. He personally contacted them to sign a contract. He didn't know that Huna was the one who made the soy sauce. That night, Han Sun told her daughter that Lucy had been looking for her. Huna decided to go see her, so she dressed up and went to the beauty salon where Lucy often went. Lucy was stunned for a moment before she realized who it was. She was shocked. Wasn't Huna supposed to be living in poverty? How could she be entering VIP rooms? She was afraid that Huna would come back and take Duhan away from her. She asked Huna what her purpose was in returning. Huna told her to guess for herself and then left casually. She immediately went back to discuss a plan with her mother. Qing Len felt there was no need to be so nervous. Meanwhile, Danlu finally discovered that his yellow soy sauce had already been hung under someone else's sign. He wanted Ragon to go negotiate with Su Chairman to get the sign back, but Ragon kept brushing him off. Danlu had no choice but to go himself. Su Chairman's arrogant attitude made Banlu furious. Ragon quickly signed a contract with GH, but he didn't know he had already fallen into Huna's trap. He decided to hold a victory banquet and invite Huna to attend. Huna appeared in front of Ragon wearing high heels. Ragon greeted her respectfully at first, but when he heard her voice, he immediately realized that the person he had been working with was Yun Soon. He angrily demanded to terminate the contract. Duhan was very excited to see Huna dressed in women's clothes again. Huna calmly congratulated him on his marriage. At that moment, Lucy also arrived. She saw the woman in front of her and was suddenly thrown into a panic. Ragon was now in a difficult situation. If he broke the contract, the penalty would be very high, and he would lose his reputation in the industry. But if he used Huna's soy sauce, it would prove to the outside world that he was weaker than Huna. Soon, he was called in by Chairman Zhu to be reprimanded and told to find a way to cancel the contract. Lucy also blamed him for letting Huna come back. He told him not to let Huna get close to Duhan. Soon, Duhan confronted Lucy, asking if he had known all along that Huna was a girl. Lucy lied, saying he had only found out recently. Duhan was unwilling to accept this and arranged another meeting with Huna. He asked Huna why she hadn't told him she was a girl. Huna replied, "You're the son of Chairman Zhu. If I had told you, I would have been framed even faster." Soon, Huna and Yunchen met with Chairman Zhu and formally declared war on him. Qing Lan, upon learning that Huna had returned as a woman, wanted to come and teach Han Sun a lesson, but was so angry she couldn't move. She decided to use chili powder to ambush him, but she was caught by Huna. Seeing Huna's outfit, she paused for a moment before starting her usual insults toward Huna. Huna didn't hold back and gave her a piece of her mind. Seeing this, Qing Lan dared not resist and left in disgrace. Meanwhile, Duhan discovered that Huna and Yunchen were partners. He then contacted Yunchen to meet. When he arrived at Yunchen's house, he saw Huna there as well. He confronted Yunchen, asking why they were together. Huna said they were discussing company matters. Duhan then confronted Huna, asking why she was guarding against him. Huna said, "Your father stole the yellow ox soy sauce. Isn't it only natural for me to guard against you?" Meanwhile, Danlu held a press conference to demand the return of the yellow ox soy sauce signboard. Crying about his plight, public opinion began to sway in his favor. But he didn't know that Huna, whom he had kicked out, was also making efforts. Due to their business partnership, Huna returned to the company, which had been renamed. The secretary was very pleased to see that the person who made that soy sauce was Huna. He shared the news with Banlu. However, Banlu remained unchanged in his resolve. He flew into a rage, saying that Huna had hidden her identity as a woman to become the heir, bringing shame upon him. He believed it was all Huna's fault that his family business was in crisis. Qing Lan was furious upon hearing that Huna had returned to the company. She decided to confront Huna. However, she was stopped by bodyguards. When she heard that Huna had become the company representative, she dared not say another word. Meanwhile, Ragon, unable to break his promise, began obstructing Huna and rejecting her proposals. Huna wouldn't let this mother and son get their way. She bypassed Ragon and asked Duhan to review the proposal. Lucy was furious when she found out. She was most afraid of Huna getting close to Duhan. Soon after, Huna's secretary arrived with a lawyer. She first showed the company's shareholding statement. Qing Lan was shocked to see that Huna owned such a large conglomerate. She thought it must be a scam. The lawyer threatened her with the abusive text messages she had sent to Huna. This was enough to detain him for a year, and warned her not to interfere with Huna again, or else she would be sent to prison. But Ragon wouldn't let it go. He didn't want Huna's soy sauce to be sold smoothly, so he arranged for a few thugs to go and destroy Huna's soy sauce. Huna arrived to stop them but was cut by shards of glass, injuring her leg. Du-han, who had heard the news, rushed over. The thugs fled to avoid being identified. Du-han bandaged Huna's wound. He confessed that his feelings for Huna had never changed. Lu Shi and Yunchen also arrived shortly after. After Yunchen made arrangements for Huna, he told Du-han that he would take care of Huna from now on. Yunchen guessed that Ragon was behind this, so he gave Ragon another scolding. Chairman Zhu also lost his temper with Ragon. He was currently trying to reconcile with Yunchen. Ragon's actions had only caused more trouble for him. He ordered Ragon to apologize to Yunchen. No matter how much he resented it, Ragon had no choice but to apologize. Yunchen, however, stated that the person he should apologize to was Huna. Ragon had no choice but to apologize to Huna. Huna took the opportunity to mock him for having no dignity. Ragon was furious but couldn't refute her. After he leaves, Lu Shi calls. She warns Huna that if she gets close to her husband again, she will expose her to the media. Huna dismisses her warning. She wants everything to go back to the way it was. Soon after, Huna takes advantage of a loophole in the contract. Without Ragon's consent, she uses the name Huan Yu Soy Sauce to start selling her first batch of soy sauce. The market response is positive, and sales skyrocket. A person who was expelled from Huan Yu Soy Sauce made the greatest effort to reclaim the brand name. This caught the attention of the media. Huna decided to accept an interview and appear in public. She stated that she would overcome gender limitations and do what she does best as a woman. Ben Lu saw the news, but remained unchanged in his thoughts. He believed that Huan Yu Soy Sauce should be run by his son. He placed all his hopes on Ragon, but Ragon refused to listen to him. Meanwhile, Du-han remained obsessed with Huna. He asked her again why she hadn't told him she was a woman a year ago. Huna explained that she had been threatened by Lu Shi. Du-han angrily demanded a divorce from Lu Shi. Lu Shi returned home in tears to confide in her mother. Meanwhile, Huna's soy sauce orders kept coming in. The employees are all reporting good news to Ragon. They have no idea that Ragon is about to explode with anger. Then Qing Lan's phone call comes. Upon learning that his sister is getting divorced, Ragon becomes even more angry. He scolds his sister harshly. If his sister is getting divorced, as an subordinate of Chairman Zhu, he won't have it easy either. Lu Shi thinks he doesn't care about her. The two immediately start arguing again. In order to escape their current predicament, the brother and sister take a large check and the deed to the property to Huna, demanding she leave Seoul. Huna tears it up in front of them and refuses outright. With her abilities, she can earn more money in the future. Ragon, holding back his anger, asks Huna what she really wants. Huna says she just wants to see them desperate and anxious. This enrages the brother and sister. Qing Lan learned that Huna didn't care about the money and was just seeking revenge on them. She felt utterly helpless. To save her daughter's marriage, Qing Lan decided to move into her son-in-law's house. Upon seeing her daughter's wedding room, she couldn't believe the two were sleeping in separate beds. She scolded the housekeeper harshly, then merged the two beds together. But no matter how hard she tried, Du-han had already decided to divorce Lu Shi. On Huna's side, her career was thriving. She was preparing to speed up her soy sauce production. Yunchen personally selected a watch for her, but dared not express his feelings. He only said it was a reward for her outstanding work. At the same time, he gave Huna an advance on her share of the profits. This was the first money Huna had earned since starting over. She shared this joy with her family. She asked her mother to send some money to her sister in the United States, and asked her mother and sister to make a wish list, which she would help them fulfill. That day, Huna needed some aged soy sauce and thought of the family's soy sauce per house, but her grandfather refused to let her enter because she was a girl. However, she didn't blame her grandfather. She believed that one day he would acknowledge her. Ragon was delighted to hear that his grandfather had kicked Huna out of the soy sauce house. Then Lu scolded Ragon for not focusing on his career. Ragon resented his grandfather for always comparing Huna to him. Additionally, his sister was facing divorce. He blamed everything on Huna. He then went to confront Huna. Huna wasn't afraid and called him to the park. Facing Ragon's provocation, Huna kicked him to the ground and said boldly that he had brought it upon himself. Ragon, unable to do anything, angrily went to find his sister. He blamed her for not being able to maintain her marriage. No matter how much Lu Shi pleaded with Du-han, Du-han was determined to divorce her. Lu Shi didn't want the divorce to become public knowledge. She wanted to leave a good impression on Du-han. She would figure something out later, so she agreed to the divorce. As Lu Shi was dragging her luggage out, she encountered Huna. Qing Lan was furious and wanted to confront Huna. Lu Shi pulled her back. She didn't want Huna to see her in such a pitiful state, so she pretended nothing had happened and dragged her luggage away. When she returned home, Ragan mocked her again. Lucy was so angry she broke down crying. Qing Lan comforted her daughter. Ragan watched coldly from the side. Zhu chairman, in an attempt to win back Yun Chan's heart, proposed that he be adopted as his son. He also drew up a will stating that Yun Chen would inherit the same property as Du Han. Yun Chen naturally wouldn't refuse such an offer. He planned to exploit the loophole in the will to bring down Zhu chairman. After learning that Huna's mother's wish was to open a restaurant, he offered 3 billion won as a transfer fee to convince the owner to sell. He also instructed them not to tell Huna. Huna's soy sauce began to hit the market. Sales reached new heights. Employees came to congratulate her. Ragan scolded the employees in frustration. Then he turned to Huna and said harshly, even if your medicinal soy sauce sells well, you'll never become the representative director of Yellow Ox soy sauce because you're a woman. That's the family rule. Huna confidently told him there's nothing in this world that can't be done. Yun Chen recalled Ban Lu's harsh treatment of Huna and felt uneasy. He decided to help Huna reclaim her rightful position. He took out the evidence from a year ago showing that Chairman Zhu had attacked the Yellow Ox soy sauce company. Huna was overjoyed. With this, she had a way to become the representative director of Yellow Ox soy sauce. She anonymously sent the documents to her grandfather. Ban Lu finally realized that the person who had destroyed Yellow Ox soy sauce was Chairman Zhu. He called a press conference to reveal everything to the media. Soon, the matter caused a huge uproar. To deal with the prosecution's investigation, Chairman Zhu decided to dismantle Yellow Ox soy sauce. Huna had been waiting for this opportunity. She prepared a fund to save Huanyu soy sauce. Citizens also formed a self-help group and secured 3 months of regulatory oversight. As a result, Ragan's representative director would have to be dismissed. With no other option, he had to participate in the representative director recruitment competition. Huna also submitted her application form. Dan Lu was one of the judges. Ragan told him that Huna had also applied. Dan Lu was unhappy upon hearing this. How could a woman lead Huanyu soy sauce? That the current supervisor wasn't him. He had no right to veto it. Meanwhile, Yun Chan's revenge plan was also underway. He proposed visiting Zhu's home. Zhu was thrilled to see his adopted son return. Then Huna appeared before him. She had come as Yun Chan's heir. Zhu's expression changed instantly. Du Han's expression also turned grim. As the heir, one could purchase unlimited shares of S Group. If Huna became the representative director of the beef sauce company, it would be even more advantageous. Plus, with the shares Yun Chen had secretly purchased, she could become the largest shareholder of S Group. Scholarly chairman clearly thought of this as well. So Du Han rushed over to accuse Yun Chen of attacking his father. Yun Chen told him to find the answer himself. Seeing that Yun Chan's approach wasn't working, he forcibly took Huna to the villa and tried to lock her up. To prevent her from attending tomorrow's audition, Huna insisted on leaving. He put on a loving expression and said how much he loved her, but he didn't consider Huna at all. The person he should have persuaded was his father. Fortunately, Yun Chen arrived in time to take Huna away. To protect Huna, Yun Chen decided to expose himself to divert Chairman Seal's attention. He deliberately revealed that he had bought shares under his mother's name. Chairman Seal realized that Yun Chen already knew he was his illegitimate son, and that he was now his enemy. Yun Chen stated that he would never forgive him. His son had become his enemy. Chairman Seal was severely shaken. Huna participated in the Representative Council selection competition as scheduled. The first round was a written exam where they had to write about what soy sauce would be like in 100 years. This was not difficult for Huna and Ragan. The second round was about how to make more money with a bottle of soy sauce. Ragan used an auction to cheat and sold it for 16 million won. Huna didn't make a single one, but she submitted an order form for over 100 million won. It turned out that Huna had made medicinal soy sauce with the soy sauce and pre-sold it. She once again defeated Ragan and became the representative director of Yellow Ox soy sauce. After losing the competition, Ragan blamed everything on his grandfather and threatened that he would never let him boss him around again. This made Ban Lu so angry that he didn't know what to do. After defeating Ragan, Huna once again took the seat of representative director. She first took back the credit cards of her stepmother's family. They had been spending company money on their living expenses. From now on, if they want living expenses, they'll have to earn it themselves. Qing Lan was furious upon hearing this. However, another piece of news left her even more devastated. According to company regulations, anyone who has worked at the company for less than a year is ineligible to inherit the estate. Both Ragan and Qing Lan did not meet the requirements. He refused to become Huna's subordinate under any circumstances. Ragan had no choice but to beg his grandfather, but he had just had a fight with his grandfather a few days ago. Ban Lu refused to listen to him. He told him to work if he wanted the inheritance. On the other side, Qing Lan and her daughter are dissatisfied with the meager meals and scolded the maid. The maid explained that she had no money to buy groceries. The three of them were on the verge of losing their minds. Soon, the maid also quit. They couldn't afford to pay her wages. The house began to fall into disarray. All the household chores fell on Qinglan and her daughter. Ragan even treated them like servants. He would occasionally fly into a rage. Qinglan and her mother were truly suffering. After a few days, they could no longer endure it and went to the company to find out jobs. Huna deliberately assigned Qinglan to pick beans. Qinglan was furious. Next, Huna took measures to change the name of soy sauce back to yellow cow soy sauce. Scholar President, in order to strike back at her, sent thugs to deal with Han Sun. Han Sun panicked and ran out, causing a car accident. Fortunately, it was only a minor injury. Meanwhile, after Lu Shi took the position of council member of the Citizen Self-Help Association, she began to target Huna. She shortened the time for normalizing operations to 1 month. Then, she collaborated with Mr. Zhu to oversee Huna's work under the guise of supervising the council members. Huna now faced numerous difficulties. At this point, Duhan found Huna. He knew that it was his father who had used violence. However, he said that no matter how despicable his father was, he was still his father. Then he proposed that Huna pretend to be his girlfriend. He said this would protect Huna's family. Surprisingly, after considering it for a few days, Huna agreed. The two publicly announced their engagement. The one who suffered the most was Yun Chan. He had already planned to confess his feelings to Huna, but he heard the news. Fortunately, Huna explained that it was just a month-long charade. He immediately felt relieved. The next day, the two of them came to the company together. Huna found the meeting records from when the company was acquired. They contained Chairman Zhu's promise to keep the name Yellow Ox Soy Sauce. If he refused to change it back, Huna would expose his shameless behavior to the media. Chairman Zhu had no choice but to comply. Dan Lu's most cherished grandson had been disgraced, while his granddaughter had done something he couldn't even accomplish. Huna then used Zhu Chairman's company's retail stores to publicly sell his Huan Yu soy sauce. This enraged Zhu Chairman to no end. His son, Duhan, was even planning to hold an engagement banquet with Huna. Lu Shi was severely shaken. She had originally hoped to reconcile with Duhan. Now, all hope was lost. Qinglan, unable to contain her anger, went to confront Han Sun again. She accused Huna of stealing someone else's husband. Han Sun angrily exposed everything about Qinglan stealing her husband. Qinglan was speechless and fainted from anger. When she returned home, exhausted, her secretary told her to prepare the ingredients for the soy sauce ritual. Once the soy sauce was made, Huna could brew soy sauce. The others were furious at the thought of Huna and refused to prepare the ingredients. With no other option, the secretary had to find Han Sun. Han Sun returned to the family estate. Qinglan saw Han Sun and was immediately furious. Ragan tried to kick Han Sun out. Hu Ming then came out with a baseball bat, scaring Qinglan and her family into silence. Meanwhile, Chairman Xiao was furious that his son had engaged to Huna and refused to let him come home. Huna found out and asked Duhan to stay at her place for the night. The two quickly grew closer. Yun Chan, however, had a tough day. When Zhu saw his son going to see Huna again, he was furious. He decided to call a board meeting to forcefully deal with the scalper. As the second largest shareholder, Yun Chen wouldn't just sit back and watch. He strongly opposed Zhu's proposal. Meanwhile, Du Yun tells Huna that Duhan married Lu Shi a year ago to save her from being taken away by the prosecution. Huna is moved by her words. She asks Duhan to meet her and confess her feelings. The two reconcile. On the other hand, Dan Lu sees that Huna has made a lot of efforts. However, he still plans to have Ragan succeed him once the beef sauce business returns to normal. Meanwhile, Ragan secretly approached the clan elders to pressure Huna. A group of people then stormed into Huna's office and accused her of usurping the position of representative director. They demanded that she be expelled from the company. Huna, furious, dragged Ragan outside. The two got into a physical altercation. Ragan threatened her, stating that the clan elders would never accept a woman as the head of the family. Huna also knew this was a tricky situation. She decided to confront the elders. To prove that sons and daughters are equal, she planned to normalize the company's operations within half a month. The first step was to achieve financial independence. Yun Chen approached the head of an overseas food company to sign a contract to sell all of the company's soy sauce products to them. Any shortages would be made up once the newly brewed soy sauce was ready. Half a month was sufficient. Scholars who naturally wouldn't stand idle by. On the day before the products were to be shipped, he arranged for thugs to go to the warehouse and set fire to the products. However, Duhan arrived to stop them. The thugs didn't recognize Duhan and beat him up. Huna cried out of concern. The next day, she accidentally saw the missing carb key appear in Yun Chan's office, but she was only confused. It wasn't until Yun Chan warned her to be careful not to faint again by the well that Huna realized Yun Chan was the one who had saved her. At the same time, she finally understood that Yun Chan had been secretly in love with her all along, but her heart was now only for Du-han, so she confessed her feelings to Yun-chan. Yun-chan said he already knew, which is why he was even more worried about her, because Zhu, the chairman, would never allow the two of them to be together. Even if Huna loves someone else, he will always wait for her. Ra-gon tried to stop Huna from making new soy sauce. He frantically searched for the book on dragon sauce at home. In his mind, he was the heir, and had the copyright to the book on dragon sauce. Huna would no longer be able to make soy sauce cakes according to the book. Dan Lu scolded him, but he talked back. This made Ban Lu faint again, but deep down, he still insisted that the yellow ox soy sauce must be passed down to his grandson. So he called Huna over. He made her promise to spin off the yellow ox soy sauce and hand it over to Ra-gon. Ra-gon was overjoyed at this. Huna made up her mind not to let him have his way. She made a bet with her grandfather. If she could regain the company within 10 days, she would challenge him to a duel. If she won, she would not hand over the company to Ra-gon. Ban Lu agreed to her terms. Unfortunately, the red mold in the soy sauce cakes flared up again. Huna tried to handle it the same way she had a year ago, but it didn't work. The red mold had spread too quickly. At this point, Dan Lu dared not delay any further. He handed over the entire book of dragon sauce recipes to Huna. Inspired, Huna suggested researching the fermentation bacteria used to make yellow cow soy sauce. If the fermentation bacteria could be preserved, it would greatly benefit the company's future value. This would allow them to spin off the yellow cow soy sauce business from S Group. Meanwhile, Lu Ji's biological father, Quan Chu, returned. He wanted to improve his relationship with Lu Shi. Lu Shi said that the person who caused her pain was Huna. You should know what to do. So Quan Chu approached Chairman Seo. The two planned to collaborate to eliminate Huna. Han Sun and Hu Ming seem to have a psychic connection and have the same dream. They dream of Huna's death. Both are deeply concerned. Meanwhile, Huna's efforts are going smoothly. The fermentation bacteria have survived. The review panel is satisfied. 3 judges have already given perfect scores. Now, all they need is the review results from Lu Shi and Chairman Zhu to spin off the yellow cow soy sauce. Even if their results were 0, it wouldn't matter. However, Chairman Zhu deliberately went out hunting at that moment. Lu Shi intentionally gave the judges results quickly to make Huna go find Chairman Zhu. Han Sun, because of the dream, kept telling Hu Ming not to let Huna go out. Huna ignored her sister's objections and rushed out. When she arrived in the deep mountains, Quan Chu appeared with a hunting rifle. She finally realized she had been tricked. At that moment, Du Han arrived but was attacked. Yun Chan, worried about Huna, also came to the scene. Just then, Quan Chu fired his gun. He didn't hesitate to take the bullet for Huna. The injured Yun Chen told Huna to escape quickly. Huna was forced to the edge of a cliff and fell down. Yun Chen and Du Han were both taken to the hospital and were unharmed. Huna, however, was nowhere to be found. Upon hearing about Huna's accident, Qing Len and her daughter were overjoyed. They easily took over the company. Huna's shoes were found. Han Sun was heartbroken. She returned to her family and accused them of being thieves. A year later, Du Han became the chairman of S Group. Zhu, the chairman, ran for parliament. Lu Shi became his assistant. Huna was still missing. Soon, just when everyone thought Huna was dead, she suddenly reappeared. Those who had harmed her were shocked. It turned out that Huna had been saved by Yun Chan's subordinate after falling off the cliff. She had been recovering in a remote sauce factory. This factory happened to be the one Ra-gon had sold. He had secretly sold several soy sauce warehouses without his grandfather's knowledge. He planned to transform the company into a hotel business. Huna had been missing for nearly a year. He wanted to register her death so he could become the heir sooner. But just then, Huna appeared, shocking him into unconsciousness. Soon, they confirmed that Huna was indeed alive. The group couldn't stay still. What if Huna told her grandfather that he sold the sauce factory? Then they would all be finished. So he took advantage of his grandfather's poor health and had him locked up in the hospital. Quan Chu sent people to keep an eye on him. Now the group had nothing to worry about. Qing Lan brought Quan Chu home openly, but Han Sun saw them. She went home and complained to Huna. After Huna confirmed the photo with her mother, she realized that the person who had harmed her a year ago was Lu Ji's father. Combining this with what she had seen a few days earlier of Lu Shi and Quan Chu drinking coffee together, Huna was certain that Lu Shi was involved in what had happened a year ago, but she had no evidence. At the same time, she launched a counterattack against Chairman Zhu. On the day Chairman Zhu was elected as a counselor, she went to the scene and questioned the chairman about Chairman Zhu's eligibility for the position. Scholar Zhu finally panicked. Du Han knew that being with Huna would only hurt her. The two had already broken up. The Qing Len family believed that Huna was a disaster. Quan Chu suggested selling Ban Lu's house. They planned to transfer everything into their own names. Ra-gon agreed. After searching through everything, they found the deed to Ban Lu's house. They were overjoyed. However, De made over her everything. She relayed the information to Han Sun and told her that Ban Lu had been locked up. Huna felt that rescuing her grandfather was the most urgent matter, but they didn't know where he was being held. Just then, Yun Chen came to help. Hu Na finally had a clue. Quan Chu and his group were about to move Ben Lu. They were knocked down by Hu Na and the others. Yun Chen quickly took down to thugs and rescued Ben Lu. Hu Na settled her grandfather in the sauce cellar. The group took careful care of him. After everything that had happened, Ben Lu finally realized the true nature of the Qing Lan family. Upon returning home, he kicked them all out. Qing Lan and her daughter were driven out of the house and moved in with Quan Chu. Han Sun held Ra Gan and Lu Shi accountable. The two of them were still defiant. Ra Gan said he was the head of the family. Han Sun had no right to question him. He told Han Sun to leave immediately. At that moment, Dan Lu called them inside. The two of them refused to admit anything, claiming they knew nothing about it. They said it was Qing Lan who locked up their grandfather. Lu Shi even said he didn't know Quan Chu. Dan Lu told her to go bring Quan Chu to confront them. If they couldn't prove their innocence, they would be kicked out. The two continued to argue and were eventually thrown out by security. Although Ben Lu kicked his grandson out of the house, he still called him back to pay his respects on his son's death anniversary. Hu Na was helpless, wondering why her grandfather couldn't see his granddaughter even though she was so good. At this time, Dan Lu was diagnosed with lung cancer. He kept it a secret from everyone, but Quan Chu found out. He and Qing Lan plotted to quickly transfer Ben Lu's assets to Ra Gan's name, because he suspected that Ra Gan was his son. Qing Lan denied it. The family argued, so they decided to do a paternity test. As Quan Chu had expected, Ra Gan was his son. Ra Gan and Lu Shi are now very anxious. They are afraid that people will discover that he is not Ben Lu's grandson. After returning to the family, the two secretly discussed this again, but were overheard by Du Yun. Du Yun pulled Hu Na's family. Hu Na decided to investigate the matter thoroughly. Du Yun was responsible for Ra Gan's eye. She took his skin tissue when he wasn't paying attention. Hu Na's family broke into Quan Chu's house. Hu Ming controlled Qing Lan and her daughter. Hu Na went to find Quan Chu's hair. Once everything was settled, Qing Lan realized they were all doomed. However, the test results would take 5 days to come out. Dan Lu collapsed at that moment. According to his will, he wanted to leave all his property to his grandson Ra Gan. Although she had already guessed the outcome, Hu Na was still very sad. Ra Gan was overjoyed. Qing Lan's family was also very happy about this. As long as they can transfer the property into their own names before the results come out, they're set. The group plans to flee abroad once they get the property. Ra Gan rushes to arrange a lawyer. Soon, the paternity test results for Hu Na's side also come out. Ra Gan isn't a Zhang family descendant. They've been deceived for over 20 years. Han Sun tells the elders of the clan about this. Just as Qing Lan and her daughter are packing their bags to leave, the elders burst in and stopped them. Hu Na called Ra Gan and threatened him to stop transferring the property. The elders then kept an eye on Qing Lan and her daughter. Ra Gan brought a group of thugs to teach Hu Na a lesson, but they were stopped by a group of employees. He was arrested and locked in a warehouse. Hu Na contacted a law firm. After learning that Ra Gan was not a descendant of the Zhang family, they refused to take his case. The family's assets were finally secure. Meanwhile, Yun Chen and Du Han caught Quan Chu as he was trying to escape. Hu Na had found evidence that Zhu Chairman and Quan Chu had conspired to harm her. She sued both of them, along with Lu Shi, in court, since they all accused each other. The evidence was irrefutable. Lu Shi and Quan Chu were sentenced to 6 years for attempted murder. Zhu Chairman was also charged with economic crimes. After decades of using violence and malicious acquisitions, he was sentenced to 12 years. Qing Lan and her daughter escaped while the elders were not paying attention, that they could only end up on the streets. At this point, Dan Lu also woke up. After realizing that Ra Gan was not his grandson, he finally realized his mistake. He then drove Ra Gan out. Hu Na was designated as the heir. Ultimately, she inherited the family business of Huan Yu So Sauce as a woman. Yun Chan, who had done so much for Hu Na, finally won her heart. In the end, the two lived happily ever after.